Welcome back to Doctor of the Future. I'm Dr. Collins. On this episode, we're going to be talking about pineapples and doing a little bit of a garden update on what I've been doing in the last month. People are always looking for like a supplement to take for inflammation. If you get anywhere even remotely down the rabbit hole with inflammation, maybe you see a good blog article or something, or your doctor tells you inflammation, boom, the first thing people do is start looking up supplements. But there are so many fruits and vegetables and just raw vegetation that you can take in that are anti-inflammatory, and pineapples is one of the best. Let's talk pineapples. I love pineapples because they are amazing. It's fitting that it's really the first plant we kind of profile because pineapples are one of the easiest things to grow in Florida, and it's the first fruit plant that I ever started cultivating. They can basically grow in sand as long as you get them a little bit of water. But pineapples are so good for your health. They're good for your gastrointestinal tract. They're anti-inflammatory and they taste really good. So in terms of anti-inflammatory, I think that's probably pineapple's strongest benefit for people and why you should grow them especially if you live in Florida. They have a chemical called bromelain inside of the pineapple, and pineapple as a plant is actually a bromeliad. So it's a bromeliad that will have that little fruit as the flower. Bromelain is highly anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of supplements that you can even buy and spend a lot of money to get that bromelain in it because it's so good for inflammation. Why do you want to lower inflammation in your body? Things like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, inflammatory conditions like itises, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, all of these things are inflammatory conditions, and it is at the core of a lot of problems that people have with pain. So if you can lower inflammation in the body, you can bring pain down. You'll be feeling a lot better. So grow pineapples. So how do you grow pineapples, right? The pineapple you buy at the store, it's this easy. You just take the top off of the pineapple, peel a couple of those leaves, and you'll get these little almost roots at the base. Put that right in dirt with a little bit of water, or even in a cup with some water, and they'll start to grow roots. Put it in dirt, and about a year and a half later, it will look like this. The neat thing about pineapples is they sort of double in cultivation. After this pineapple grows up full size, I'm gonna cut this top, make a new pineapple, and then if you zoom in here, you'll actually see that often they'll shoot off one or two of these little guys. They're pups or hijos. You can take those as they start to grow out, plant that in, and they will grow a new fruit actually the fastest. So for every pineapple, you'll often get 2 or 3. On a lot of the varieties, you'll get these little razors that can kind of stab you as you go by. So I like to cut them around the pot to keep it contained so I'm not walking by and getting snagged by these little teeth. I like to make sure that mine are getting watered consistently. So I will drop an irrigation line to the ones that are in pots. And I have that going throughout all of the garden, maybe every other day in the dry season. And then when it starts getting wet like it is now, every 2 days, or sometimes I just leave it off and let the rain hit. But that seems to keep them happy and green instead of turning kind of yellow. I'll mulch them in and then maybe throw some coffee grinds or worm castings in there, and that's it. They love neglect. My goal is to basically have them all over the property, at the base of trees, in their mulch. Down the driveway is what I'm working on now, taking some of the plants that I have and putting them in a row along the driveway. They are the most prolific thing that I am planting, and really short-term benefit. So right now I have blackberries in a couple of these pots, and then that's a Mysore raspberry, which is a Florida raspberry that you can grow. But this whole row of pots through here and then around the front is going to be basically a berry patch. So another really good thing to eat for the dark colors and inflammation and antioxidants is berries. So I just put in an order for some different blueberry, raspberry, and blackberry plants. The side of my house in front where I have pots that's irrigated, that's all going to be my little berry patch up here. because it's one of the best things you can eat, both if you are breastfeeding and also for general health with antioxidants. Right now I have a couple of blackberry plants up here, and I actually just snagged these ones from Lowe's, but the ones I have coming are specific for this zone in Florida, which is 10A, to make sure that they grow prolifically and actually produce fruit. First mango, baby. This is a coconut cream mango. I've actually got 4 of them planted, 4 red lady papayas. Papayas are awesome for digestion and inflammation as well. You can put them in smoothies or eat them raw. They're about yay big, and you can even eat them green. But this tree is going to grow up, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet tall, and then start shooting off another one. So we'll have lots of papayas, but these go really good with bananas as a crop, and they make a nice shade tree for smaller stuff to be underneath as well. They grow really fast like a weed in Florida, so you all should plant them. Let's say you don't have a lot of space in your yard, you just have like a little tiny spot that you can set up for fruiting trees. If you wanted to set up a little tree forest guild in that one little spot, papayas will grow nice and tall in shade. You could have a dwarf banana next to it and then some pineapples along the bottom. So if you don't have a lot of room, papayas, bananas, and pineapples make a great little mini forest in that space you have. The jackfruit got a new home. He's starting to look happy. He's got some new growth coming out. I was a little nervous about transplanting him because it can kill trees, but I want him out here in the yard out front. They're a really pretty tree and they don't produce a lot of like fruit. The fruit stays on the tree until you harvest it. This is a Mahashanak mango over here. So he's just starting to grow. A Mahashanak mango is a really good variety for a long season. They will fruit early, and then instead of just dumping all at once, they'll sort of fruit over time or have multiple seasons. So I got this at Excalibur Fruit Trees, and I think everybody should have a Mahashanak, especially if you don't have a lot of space for mangoes. That is a Barbados cherry. It'll turn red, and it almost tastes like a plum. So that's what the flowers look like on our Barbados cherry. And each of these flowers, if they get pollinated, will turn into a little cherry. And these trees are just getting started. So a year from now, when they're nice and bushy, they'll be covered in cherries. Ice cream banana, you can tell they're happy because of this. They're shooting up new. And these are the coffee grinds. There's so much energy in the coffee grinds. Coffee grinds are a great fertilizer for your trees. Bananas specifically like to be planted with compost, or they want to be fed. So I'm not big on like fertilizers, so I'll use worm castings and coffee grinds. But even early on, where a lot of the other types of trees don't fertilize them for a while, wait till they get a lot of new growth going, the bananas want compost and food right away. Number one, I don't want chemical fertilizers on our trees because I don't want to eat that. I don't want to ingest that. The fruit draws the chemicals into it. If I'm going to use fertilizer for a plant, my idea is, even more than manure, growing different types of plants that you can chop and drop at the base and allow that nutrition that the plant accumulated. Comfrey is a good example. It's a type of plant. I'd rather put that at the base along with like the old banana leaves. Cutting these and having this be at the base of the tree along with coffee grinds. Letting that go back into the plant instead of like synthetic chemicals, animal fertilizers that have antibiotics or hormones in it or who knows what. So I'm big on natural. Feed the plant, but use worm castings, coffee grinds, and its own material, and other plants like comfrey that can feed nutrition back into it naturally. Husking coconuts, Parker does it, check it out. So I'm actually going to dig up this passion fruit and put them on the fence. And I want to, I seeded some Seminole pumpkins, which are a variety of pumpkin. It's almost like a squash that will grow in Florida really well. And I read that the Native Americans, the Indians that were here, would run that pumpkin vine. They would train it up trees, and then you would basically have, almost like Christmas, you would have these pumpkins hanging. So they called it like hanging pumpkins or something like this. I want to do that with the sea grapes instead of passion fruit, which was my original plan. Guava looks happy, look at this. Boom. This thing's gonna be huge. And then in these pots up here, I'm gonna put the figs. I bought 3 more fig plants, and then I have one in the back that I'm gonna transplant. So it's gonna be all of these bushes here. Cherry of the Rio Grande, jujube, guavas, right? But in the pots will be different varieties of figs that will fruit at different times. I feel like the closer you can get to what Native Americans were doing, and those people were doing, especially in this area, you're gonna win, because they knew the varieties to grow and how to grow them. Everybody tries to grow varieties from like New Hampshire and Connecticut, tomatoes from Vermont and Florida, and then you wonder why your tomatoes are covered in bugs and fungus and stuff. Where if you grow like an Everglades tomato, that's a variety of tomato that you plant it, and it's almost like a weed that takes over your whole yard, and you can have tomatoes all year. And they're sweet, they're like little cherry tomatoes. Just being congruent with where you are, the zone that you're in, and then varieties that have historically done good, like Seminole pumpkins and Everglades tomatoes that Indians were using, and it's gonna be prolific and you're gonna eat lots of good food. Look at the tower garden, it's firing. I feel like the last time we talked about the tower garden, it was just getting started again on the new cycle. And now it's just firing now. Like, this row needs to come out today. We should have a salad. Where the first phase with the yard was fruit trees, that's pretty much done. I feel peace now because that's kind of happening. They're growing in the background. I'm gonna start in between them and around them growing different perennial crops. So vegetables that will kind of go year round versus annuals. And then supporting them as well with different flower types and like comfrey vegetable, like leafy greens that I can use to mulch in as well. This row over here is sort of what's on deck for perennials. I have these starts here are tree collards. So imagine a collard green that grows on a tree trunk, basically. These are all tree collard starts that I got off of Amazon, actually. And then some supportive plants for like bees and things like that. This is an African basil. A couple of different rosemaries. These are perennials, so these will grow a big bush. Lemon verbena will sort of repel insects that we don't want. So here, I want to start growing perennial vegetables as well. I want to have the kind of trellis checkerboard wood here and grow chayote squash, which is a green, white-fleshed, squash may not even be the right word, but it's a vegetable that you can like stir fry and cut up. But basically it's perennial, so it'll go year-round. It'll grow amazingly well in Florida, and you don't have to fight off bugs and pests. When I've tried to grow yellow squash and northern varieties in Florida, it's hell. So they're annual, so meaning they have like 90 days that you're trying to grow them in, and then the plant dies. You're constantly fighting off whitefly and other bugs. Where if you just grow chayote squash, you're not gonna have to keep planting it every year. It's built for our soil, so you can plant it right in the dirt instead of having to worry about nematodes. And it's prolific, so it'll go crazy, versus being devoured constantly by whitefly and fungus, like yellow squash. So keep up with these videos. You'll see them on YouTube and on Facebook. We're gonna be doing these Doctor of the Future episodes monthly, so you guys can keep up with what's growing in my garden and hopefully get encouraged to do some of that for yourself too. Tell me when. Ready to go. Thank you for visiting.